Okay, and I say we'll go ahead and get started. If some other people pop up, I'll admit them as we go. I think the only hang up is when the music's playing because it seemed to like crash it out last time or like pause it. So I think we got a minute before I get to that slide. All righty, where's my little button? Okay, all right, so we're back for the Actualize workshop. We are now in installment 3, and you see I've kind of got a little highlight effect going on there. So we are in the overcoming phase. So just to kind of, I guess, wrap up kind of what we've been doing, this has been a workshop based on how to prepare for your goals, how to prepare for them, how to, I guess, start them. And then now we're in the phase of how to overcome, not your goals, but how to overcome the obstacles that tend to get in the way of you achieving your goals. And that is a huge one. So this is just a reminder. I kind of have this slide each time, on the benefits of this workshop. And something I wanted to say to also kind of clarify, the kind of components of this workshop this time is that it's a unique kind of thing in that we combine expressive writing and kind of like mindfulness practices and meditation in this workshop to kind of help you clarify and achieve your goals. So I think that's a really cool thing. And again, here's some of the proven benefits, especially based off of this Actualize workshop by Jessica S. Gifford. This is some of the research she found that by writing out your goals, by really plotting them and focusing on them, and really using that expressive writing method, you can see an increase in self-esteem, self-efficacy, just meaning and purpose in your overall life, as it kind of helps anchor you again to like your value system and what you're really, really trying to get out of it. So just a little refresher there. So let's go ahead and get into what the heck we're overcoming, right? So let's just go with setbacks. That's kind of the word in her book, and I like it. I think it's exactly what it is. We have setbacks along the way to achieving our goals. And I like this definition of it, though there are others. But a setback can just be looked at as a reversal in progress. I actually think that's a really generous way of looking at it, and maybe not even the way we usually look at it. You could think of another way you describe it, like it's a complete failure, kind of dramatic. So this is a much more neutral way, a reversal in progress. So let's look at the types of setbacks that affect us on our journey to achieving our goals. Okay, that's what I got. So I just put some like random ones up there, and you feel free to share what you think or put it in the chat. In fact, let me make sure I can even see my chat. Where's my chat? There it is. Just in case. Okay, let me move my little box around. Okay, so I have, pretty much anything you're doing to avoid your goal. And in this case, maybe it's schoolwork for a test or a project, or maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's something you really enjoy doing, but, you Netflix and chill instead, or, go on a shopping spree. And then it could also be things like, breaking your diet, missing your workout, or with, money, finances. If you've got a goal like most of us do to save, whether you're saving up for something now or later, then you sometimes can spend past your budget, and you can view it as, a major setback, a minor setback, but it can be definitely seen as a reversal in progress towards what you're doing. So the exercise objectives for today, it's not just identifying what those setbacks are, but it is changing and kind of manipulating how you are viewing those setbacks. Again, it's in that kind of neutrality of the language you use versus like the catastrophic, like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna buy a house now, because I blew it all. So that's just very dramatic. So we want to move away from the drama and kind of get more neutral with this exercise. And the hopes too is that we're going to incorporate positive self-talk and self-compassion. And the 2 exercises I have planned for today, you'll see how they both are separate, but they work together kind of for the overall goal of working on being kinder to yourself with your goals. So let's follow that detour sign. This we have here, this is another reminder. I've kind of thrown it in on the last ones, just to keep reminding you that, when I say goal, I'm not talking about the end goal of I'm supposed to graduate with this GPA in 4 years. No, I'm talking about these tiny baby goals along the way, just passing your class, studying for the test, reserving time to be dedicated to your goal and to excel at what you can excel at. It's that generates that kind of dopamine burst. So you get that feel good chemical, that reward center of your brain is activated, and then it generates a positive feeling. You feel good. And when you feel good, it increases the motivation and that momentum forward. This workshop has a lot of emphasis on wanting to move forward. And again, that's why I think this one's so critical with overcoming, because when we have some negative self-talk about our setbacks, sometimes that freezes us. We either go all the way back or we get stuck. So the goal here is to just remind yourself that all these little baby goals can help us move forward in the bigger picture of our goal. And this little graphic here, I want to touch on this, that this could be a whole workshop of its own, but maybe something to keep in mind as you do the exercises today, that, consider what frame of mind you're in, what mindset you're in when you're thinking about what you want out of life and what you expect from yourself, those expectations you set. So we have here the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And I'm going to probably really oversimplify it, but I look at it as, do you have the inner resources to succeed or complete the goals? So that's something, kind of take a second and think about that whenever you come up against something you weren't prepared for, whether it's a death in the family, whether it's an unexpected quiz or test, or just an unexpected challenge in your life, or something you were prepared for, but then didn't do well at, or didn't handle it the way you thought you would handle it. So sometimes we tend to default to that fixed mindset of, well, I just don't have what it takes to be this. If you have this label kind of you've imposed or other people in your life have imposed on you of, I'm a straight A student, or I'm, a giving person. And if you feel like you behave in ways or get results that kind of contradict that fixed mindset can kind of set you up for a spiral, because it's your narrative that you have about yourself has been completely challenged, and you don't know if you have the resources, to, kind of challenge it back, I guess. Whereas that growth mindset is a lot more about resilience and how you're talking to yourself, how you're looking at what you're going through, and kind of reframing. That's so big in counseling. It's always about coming back to reframing how you're assessing a problem and assessing, your strength and what you can do about it. So I kind of like, some of the things in here, I like the challenges help me to grow. That's a really great way to reframe. Whereas some self-talk that's more negative could be, every time this happens, I'm just reminded of how bad I am at this, or how maybe I can't be a doctor, or maybe I can't lose this weight, or maybe I'm not a good partner. So yeah, kind of keep that in mind when we kind of move forward. Oh, that's just pretty, isn't it? So exercise number 1, let's change your self-talk. And I like this image because I feel like that kind of represents what positive self-talk is like. It's sunshine, it's growth, it's beauty, but it's also knowing that the sun's going to set, there's going to be shadows, there's going to be darkness, there's going to be rain, but it all kind of works together. So that might be my one little poetic aside for today, but we'll see. There may be more. All right. So this one, let's just get into a little bit more of what self-talk is. We kind of covered some of it, but I kind of would like y'all's feedback too. Either personal examples or just some definitions you have of it. What I found is that it's your inner dialogue about your world. And that can be, who we are, what we like and don't like, and then just the judgments we make about ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings. Has anyone here ever had a thought that you're like, that was mean, I can't believe I thought that, that's not me, I'm not like that, something like that. It's kind of pretty human. So and we'll get into the negative self-talk as well. I generally think of self-talk as just being neutral, it's just our observations about what's happening. And then the twist we put on it, can make it negative or positive. And I think I want you to dig in today and consider how much time are you investing in shaping it into like a negative self-talk rather than a positive. All right, hopefully there we go. So look at this, and either through chat or you can throw something out there. Let me know if that resonates, if you feel guilty of having said something that falls along these lines. So negative self-talk is generally critical and pessimistic in nature. And it's not reality-based. And that's through counseling, that's something that I get kind of excited about pointing out, because we sometimes, I won't say sometimes, I think we often as humans go straight into believing whatever that narrative, like the first thought that comes to our head, we don't fact check it, we just go, yeah, that's right. And if we say, yeah, that's right, too many times to negative self-talk, that really starts making up the construct of our belief system. So that not reality-based piece is that it generally is more black and white. It's more extreme, and it's, more extreme in I'll never succeed. I'll never be loved. I'll never be worthy. I'm the worst at this. They're the worst at this, right? And that kind of thinking and believing impedes our ability to move forward. So again, back to that, little cycle thing of how the whole goal is to keep moving forward, to keep up that momentum. Even if you have a setback, you just put your foot in front of the other and keep going forward so that you can achieve that goal. Well, this right here really does the opposite. It will keep you set back on your setbacks. And it is one of the biggest obstacles to success. So I'll just take a second and check the temperature of the room. Is this resonating with anyone? Are y'all feeling like y'all have been victims of this sometimes?
Yeah, I will. I'll say that I probably use never way more than I should. I hate that word.
It's terrible. Ban it.
Yes.
Yeah. And are you at a place where you're able to catch it now and you kind of challenge it, or is it still just kind of get in your brain?
It's still in my brain. I'm gonna start now to try
Yeah.
to catch
Yeah.
it at least. Like, I shouldn't use that word.
Yeah, and it's tempting because it's like a broad stroke. And I think as humans, we don't like uncertainty, and we kind of want a label. It makes us feel comfortable. So it's like if you just say never, you've really slapped a label on something really quick,
Right.
but you probably don't feel better afterward.
No, I don't.
Okay, Megan shared here in the chat, believing my positive self-talk has gotten easier. Oh, I love that. I love that you said believing it, because you're right. Like for me, my personal experience, I don't want to believe it. It doesn't sound like the truth at first until it starts to sound more like your voice, honestly. And then what did Angie say? Yes, I think when my ego is wounded is the strongest. I have to check myself, step back, and be curious about my own filters of the situation. Yeah, and that takes some work, right? Oh, I love these comments. That's so great. Okay, I could keep going. So yeah, great feedback. This is great. So now we'll just get into the exercise. So this will be a little different in how I do it, in that this first exercise, I'm going to run through it kind of like a guided meditation. So there's 3 points to kind of help you curate and work on your self-talk. And I'll just kind of do an overview of it as the music is playing. Y'all know by now I like to have a visual and some like pretty music to relax you. So to begin, start the music in a second, but to kind of set you up, you'll start with the first one, which is just going to be to notice. And what I'd like you to do is take a deep breath. And this might be something with each point you just want to visualize first. Kind of hold it in your head first as if it was just a regular meditation, and then move to writing it down so we can kind of incorporate the 2 components. So let me go ahead and get started. And let me get my clock. It'll give us 5 to 10 minutes, kind of depending on the time. And you'll just let me know how the sound is. Okay, so I want you to take another deep breath and focus in on one of the many goals you have. And it could be one that you've been returning to, in each kind of session that we're doing. Bring that goal into focus and just be receptive to whatever it is you are thinking or feeling about that goal. So specifically, once you've taken a few minutes to just kind of, meditate on it, go ahead and write it down. List the positive and the negative thoughts that you have pertaining to that goal. Allow yourself to be a neutral observer and reflect on it as you would if you were gauging the temperature of the room. You might say, I'm cold right now. Ooh, I'm hot right now. And it could be, I'm sad right now when I think about all that it takes to get where I need to go. Or it could be, I'm anxious but excited because it's so close. So I'll give you a minute or two to kind of explore that. Now let's introduce the next step. So acceptance. So taking another deep breath, kind of visualizing the goal, maybe reviewing your list, of the positive and the negatives. Instead of trying to suppress or change or argue with any of that, just let it be. Practice acceptance in this moment. Give yourself that little gift of just observing it and maybe opening your arms to it. And again, visualize it first and then write what needs to come out. But, kind of take this time to describe, how does it feel, to be open and accepting to these positive and negative emotions. So this last step for this exercise 1, it's a bit like you're retracing your footsteps. So going back to the positive and the negative thoughts, the feelings that you've been doing such a good job at observing and trying to just kind of hold at arm's length, we want to take it a step further. And this is a cool little twist on it where you could write something new, or you could revisit what you already wrote and change your language. With this exercise, it's helpful to do maybe second or third person. So that example there, if you're feeling annoyed right now, you could be bold enough to say call you by your name, or you might want to just talk to yourself like, you are doing this, you are feeling that, you are scared of this. So go ahead and try and reframe how you've already written or established it. And the goal is just to continue to create distance from that charged kind of emotional place. And don't forget to breathe while you're at it and let it kind of just unfurl around you. At this stage, you're not just a character in the story. You're narrating the story. You are more aware. You have more of a overall kind of vision of what's to come and a less limited reactive kind of view of everything. So kind of let that flow through you. Okay. For the sake of time, it's always time. We'll kind of stop there. But before we move forward, I kind of want to take an inventory and know, did this stir anything in anyone, or did you feel pretty kind of neutral and detached through the whole thing? Any feedback would be cool to kind of see if it did something for you or if it did the opposite. I don't know, I think everyone fell asleep. Well, I'll say for me, I liked to track it, and I think I did really, I guess, come to terms with kind of the point of it in that as I started out, my goal felt so much, the emotions around my goal felt so much closer to me. And then by the time you graduate to that third step of the narration, it is more at arm's length. And for me, there is something powerful about saying to myself, you are afraid of this, you're worried about that, you're not so sure, whatever, fill in the blank. And there's a little bit more control kind of because of that, not just caught in the middle. Oh, got a comment here. I didn't know how to describe how it felt to accept the thoughts. I settled on accepting the thoughts is a way to not fret about them. Oh, I love that. And the transparency here, that's so beautiful. Yeah, like not knowing how to describe, how it felt to accept the thoughts. Again, that's a piece of this, Megan, which I think you're completely like present here with what's going on, because that can also come up. I mean, it's that's kind of asking a lot to not only accept, but to also describe how it feels. Especially us being humans, it's not like something we do every day. We're learning kind of every day how to do this more. So I think that's actually really lovely. Any other thoughts before we move on? Do you want to leave anybody out? All right. All right. I think it helped me notice how bad I needed to work on this particular thing. Oh, even better. Don't want to make something too positive out of your pain, but that's exactly what I'm here for. Yeah, it's like this is a cool exercise, right? It can kind of help you zero in on the thing that's not working for you, that you may do a lot. All right, let's go on. So now we're introducing the self-compassion piece, which you kind of already are weaving it in. So I kind of want to do what I did with the last one, which is give us a little overview of self-compassion before we plunge into the exercise. Let's start by just breaking down what compassion is. I have like a whole slew of stuff here for it. Let me see, what do I have? Okay. So I want to get the name right. I think I put it, yeah, Kristen Neff. So Kristen Neff is referenced in this workshop. She's like a big researcher on compassion and self-compassion. And so some of this is coming from her website, but essentially compassion means to suffer with, to notice suffering. When you start to open your eyes or your heart to other people's suffering, then it can trigger the desire to actually help because you have a heart, you want to do something about it. And when you're trying to help, you're offering kindness rather than judgment to other people. And you're also just acknowledging that suffering, failure, imperfections, it is a part of the human experience. And I think we as humans can be guilty of thinking we're supposed to be an exception to that. Just individually, I'm supposed to rise above this. I shouldn't let that affect me. And I think there is some beauty and acceptance in just letting it be what it is, which is we're all going through our own things all the time. And that is when self-compassion comes in and can really help us navigate those kind of choppy waters a little bit better. So I like this. Just apply all that to yourself now. And then boom, you've got self-compassion, right? Easier said than done. So some points about self-compassion, that we really want to bring into focus here is that it's not uncommon for us to lead with an inner critic, right? Or like more of the negative self-talk. We tend to kind of identify that as a motivator. It could be more societal, cultural in aspects, but it's this idea that criticism is a driving force. And maybe that's because we heard it from our parents and it kind of just got woven into the fabric of how we talk to ourselves. But overall, I'm giving you an opportunity to kind of untangle that and to kind of explore what if I stop using that as a motivating force? If I actually use positive self-talk and self-compassion, I might actually be motivated forward instead of stuck in that loop. So some of the thoughts are that you'll become lazy in a sense. If you don't stay on yourself, whatever it is you say, like, come on, get your act together. Don't be a baby, or like, you don't want to suck like everyone else in your family. Oh my goodness, who's saying all that? So, but we have it. We have that shadow self that, that can be authoritative, trying to keep us on our toes, but it can also be like mean and hurtful. And again, just perpetuate that kind of belief system of not really being good enough. So essentially, yes, self-compassion, it does increase our tolerance for making mistakes. We learn to be less hard on ourselves. We give ourselves that grace, but that does not equal complacency. That does not mean because you start to believe, as Megan said, that you're worthy of this or that you can allow yourself to talk to yourself that way. It doesn't mean that you stop doing what you need to do. So just a little soapbox of mine. And, a little bit more on that is just that typically the more compassionate you are with yourself, you're a little less afraid of things. Your fear of failure kind of is reduced, which then means you tend to take more risks, right, towards your goal. And again, it's all about moving forward and not staying stuck. So with Kristen Neff's kind of theory on this, I want to break it down just a little bit more into these 3 elements of self-compassion, which you can apply to the exercise. So my notes in order here. So kind of look through these And as we talk, maybe point out to yourself, share if you like, but, where you feel like you get hung up on any one of these three components. So there's the first one, self-kindness versus self-judgment. So what is self-kindness and what is self-judgment? Well, the self-kindness piece is that overall warmth and understanding towards yourself and others, even and probably most likely when we feel inadequate, right? So there's that acceptance that though I'm feeling inadequate, I may not be inadequate. I may be imperfect, but that doesn't mean I'm bad or inherently flawed or defective. It's kind of separating those two things there. And then accepting that life's difficulties will occur and that it's probably best if they're met with sympathy and kindness. Let me see what Angie shared here. Said you have to be comfortable with the vulnerability of allowing compassion in. It means letting our guard down and that need for being strong all the time. Yeah, I love that so much. I feel like I just want to print out all these comments and post them on a board for inspiration. Yeah, I love the vulnerability is a huge piece, which I know Angie, that could be a whole nother thing too. So then when we move in with that vulnerability, that allows us to, I believe, open our eyes to the suffering of others. And when we do that, we then kind of increase that human connection. And when we do that, there's less focus on the I, on the me. There's less of that narrow scope of vision. You're able to recognize suffering as a part of the human experience, and you are then typically less isolated because of it. And then when we look at the mindfulness versus over-identification component, it's, again, they all kind of flow together. But the goal is to identify less with the feelings, with the thoughts, with the belief systems that aren't serving us. And that mindfulness allows us to do that. And that's what this whole workshop is kind of based on. So you are using mindfulness techniques to balance out your approach to the emotions so that you're not either overreacting to them or trying hard to suppress them. So you might notice that in yourself, like a tendency to toggle between I'm either completely avoiding this and I'm numbing out, or I'm getting so hyped up and emotionally bent out of shape, that I become powerless or that I become too reactive. And all of it just is like a self-fulfilling prophecy of doubt and doom. So this is a non-judgmental observation of feelings. So, all right, kind of sped through that just so that we can get to our exercise. But yeah, just kind of keep that in mind as we go forward. And now we get into practicing self-compassion. So it'll be a similar style. Let me make sure. Okay, I want to make sure everything's on the board there. Let me start the music. It's a little epic sounding, isn't it? Okay. Turn it down just. Maybe not. Okay. So with this exercise, we're going to start. Again, I want you to fill your lungs with air, take a deep breath. Maybe take in the glittering leaves that are falling. It's a really pretty image, isn't it? Just kind of breathe through it. If you're feeling any hiccups right now, any strange, uncomfortable feelings, just kind of breathe them out. And I want you to take a second to identify a voice that is representing all this self-compassion and positive self-talk we've been going over. Identify a positive and compassionate voice. And kind of let your intuition take over. Who is embodying that voice? It could be, does it sound like your mom? Does it sound like your sister? Is it your dad? Is it your dog? It can be a mythical creature. It could be a turtle. It really can be. It could be a spirit guide, an angel. Just, let's hear the voice and kind of just let it, be what it is. Now bring to mind the goal again. Bring to mind those obstacles, those setbacks, and the feelings that arise within you just thinking about that. And similar to the exercise before, imagine that the owner of that positive and compassionate voice is standing off to the side, in all their golden glory and beauty and ethereal whatever, or it's just eternal, whatever. And they're observing your experience. They're observing you as you're struggling with that. Maybe take a second, if you haven't already, to write from the perspective of that voice. You know what it sounds like. What is it saying? And pay attention to what that brings up in you. Again, always tap into if there's any level of resistance to hearing them speak. Like what Megan said, giggling about the voice of the Dotson spirit guide. I love it. Well, it's not going to be resistance if it's my dog. I'll listen to anything she says. So yeah, just, I don't know, feel the sparkling leaves and that wind sweep around you, throw your hair back, and just kind of let it move you, move through you. We're kind of letting go of some old baggage here. All right, and we're moving into the second half of the exercise. Already covered that one, where we get stuck having to start the music back. There we go. All right. So now that you're imagining whoever it is and they're observing your struggles in the middle of that road with the wind in your hair and the leaves all around you, and you're trying to will away that negative self-talk, right? That criticism. Let's employ some of those elements that we talked about with self-compassion and start focusing on that human experience piece. Reflect on all the other people in your life that have had similar experiences to what you're feeling right now in that moment. And again, it could be a celebrity. It could be someone in your family. It doesn't matter, just go where your heart takes you when you're observing that suffering. Angie's talking about the sparkling leaves and how all that mental chatter seems ridiculous. She says, I need to live a more magical life engrossed in self-validation and self-compassion. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, you're speaking my language now. So write about if the words come. If it doesn't come and you just need to breathe through it and imagine it, that's enough. But really take a second to zero in on how this connects you to these other people in your life or around your life. Does it connect you? The last little piece, and maybe the most important, you're kind of combining it all again. Little leaves are just, the music is swelling. So now it's kind of more on the nose of what we've been talking around. But I want you to stand, with your spirit guide, with your Dotson, with your whatever, and let them talk to you, just go there a second and offer yourself words of kindness, guidance, and support. Maybe merge with that image because that voice is a part of you and that voice is you. It's just not typically cultivated. So give yourself the gift to stand beneath the leaves, walk through the road. I love all this stuff. Do whatever you have to do visually, but listen. And I really want you to take a second to listen and hear what you can offer yourself, with this struggle. So do a check-in as we're kind of coming to a close. I don't know how you feeling now. Do you feel any different? Again, scan if there was any resistance to it. Maybe it seems so silly you couldn't even slip into it. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That can be very common with meditation or any of these experiential kind of things. But this could be an exercise to try again, later on, maybe at a different time, like before bed or something. So let's go ahead and kind of soak in all those feelings. And I hate that the music just stopped. I need to figure out something there because we need that to keep going. But yeah, let's take a minute, kind of discuss overall those two exercises kind of back to back. What did they do for you? Oh, what is Megan saying here? I would like to make my notes from these sessions in a special notebook. How about having a project to make or decorate journals? Oh my gosh, I haven't even started on journaling. Does anyone else here journal? Because I'm such a fan of journaling. Spring program. Getting lost in my chat. So a good question to ask yourself now, do you feel better or worse than you did 50 minutes ago? And kind of maybe start by gauging that way. If you feel worse, why do you think you feel worse? If you feel resistance, why? If you feel better, are you able to identify what it was about a thing we did that made you feel better? So, oh, vulnerable. Yeah, that's a good one. Feeling both vulnerable, uncomfortable, and relieving. Yeah. And again, this is a group kind of setting. If it's something you do on your own in like the safety of your home, with no one around, you might also, it could be one or the other. You could experience increased vulnerability doing it that way. Or you could have maybe more trouble getting into it. But I think what's important is just using this as just a little starting off point. Like this is not the be all end all, but this can be an introduction into talking to yourself differently, treating yourself differently, and just overall paying way more attention to how you feel, based around what you're saying to yourself about the struggles you have along your journey for whatever it is you're trying to do. And then Angie says, sometimes it's so hard to give yourself some self-love. Yeah, I know, I wish we could just bathe in it. But that's why I say take bubble baths, light candles, do whatever. I'm so big on the self-care. So yeah, ultimately, we're just bringing together the two components for this one. And again, I say with that Actualize workshop series, there are several more exercises for each phase. So for overcoming, there is another one that emphasizes how to set those mini goals to keep achieving like the dopamine, hit. But I went ahead and lifted the two that were more focused on the self-talk and the compassion piece, because we haven't really gotten into that before. So takeaways for today, just pay a little bit more attention and see if you can do some little interventions here and there to kind of flip around some of that, I guess, that self-talk. So I don't think I have any other notes left on it. Suppose my closing slide's a little dramatic. I don't know why I left it here. Oh, isn't that cool? Yeah, so I don't know what I was doing here, but I'm a writer. I like the hero's journey. I thought this was a cool little graphic to end with. Just knowing there's kind of this classic hero's journey that a character goes on throughout a story. You can apply it to Titanic or Wizard of Oz, or I'm sure there's a lot of other ones. And usually along the way, what you find is they go it alone at some point. They've got help, but there's periods where they go it alone, and there's obstacles along the way. But it's never really been a good story, right, when they turn back. Like if Dorothy opens the door to Oz and it's just like, nah, I'm good. I'll stay in this house. I'm not going to watch that. So maybe go onward throughout your day and kind of think about your hero's journey. And are you giving yourself the kindness and love you need to just keep getting through the dark times? So we will end on that note. And thanks again, guys, for being here, for commenting. That helps me know if any of it's making sense. And we'll meet again in a few weeks to do the final one, which will be sustaining. So we've gotten all this way, and now how do we actually keep it up? All right, thanks and take care.